Welcome back to the Bill and Doug Show. It's Tuesday. That means it's time for us to redo our playoff brackets. And Bill, at least for me, two of the offseason teams that I was like kind of banging the drum for, their drums broke. Is that a football term? Someone broke their drums. Illinois and Utah losing has me on edge a little bit. And then also I was looking at some things and I'm already starting to dread the 9-3 end of year log jam that is going to wind up with 7 SEC teams making the playoff field. And I want to throw myself out of my second floor window here thinking about the playoff. I shouldn't be this angsty in September thinking about the playoff, should I?
No, I don't think so. At the very least, it seems like, Illinois is probably being replaced by another Big Ten team, at least for the moment, the team that beat them. So that's okay. The Utah thing was a little bit shocking. And I don't think you're wrong about there being a logjam of 3-loss SEC teams. But we don't have to worry about that now. Let's not worry about that.
We don't? Are you just trying to make me feel better?
Yeah, man, life's too short. No, there will come a time when we have to worry about it. Very much so. But I don't know that you should do it on September 23rd.
Okay, so there's this thing that The Athletic does. I don't really understand it, but they run through and make a bracket based on the algorithm they've created of who the most likely playoff teams are at the moment. And I just looked at their bracket, and it was 6 SEC teams, 3 Big Ten teams, 1 ACC team, one Big 12 team, and a Group of 5 team. And I went through, and it's like, they have, I'm sure, a lot of fancy numbers, but then they just have to come up with a basic, like, well, what does our algorithm project that your final regular season record's going to be, right? And they don't make it. You see a lot of the things are like, well, we think your regular season record's going to be 10.7 and to 1.3. And it's like, well, that's not what your record could be. So they just do round numbers. So I just went through, they predicted 14 teams from power conferences to wind up at 9-3, 5 from the SEC, 4 from the Big Ten, 3 from the ACC, and 2 from the Big 12. Okay. 14 teams, and then just they're trying their metrics, their algorithm, and they try to work in like how they think the committee is going to think about those teams. They say they lean on strength of record and strength of resume. So we're talking about 14 teams at 9-3, and they have 4 of them based on their percent chance to make the playoff that they have right now. 4 of those 14 make the 12-team field at the moment in their thing. And they're all SEC teams.
Yeah.
They have Ole Miss with a 64% chance to get in at 9-3, LSU with a 62% chance, Texas A&M with a 41% chance, and then Oklahoma with a 32% chance. And for whatever reason, they give Oklahoma the edge over Iowa State and Florida State, who are also at 32%. But it's that kind of thing, Bill, when I start to think about that makes my body has a reaction to it. And it makes me want to call Tony Petitti and tell him to, like, let's get this 4 guaranteed for the Big Ten, 4 guaranteed for the SEC, 2 each for the Big 12 and the ACC. Like that kind of discussion. Great. Let's do that, because I just don't want to live in the algorithm world where the algorithm thinks like, well, I guess the committee's going to put in 7 SEC teams. I'm sorry.
No, I think it's worth being on alert for, because the thing that is not working in the Big Ten's favor is the Penn State, Oregon, Indiana round robin, right? And if someone comes out of that with 2 losses, they're probably not going to win an argument against a 3-loss SEC team, right? Like that's what makes you nervous.
So that argument. So let's have. So this is the other thing that is happening, that Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State in the Big Ten are viewed by almost everyone as playoff locks right now. And I think the status of locks in the SEC is not at the point of thinking there's 3 guaranteed teams in, right? And so, again, it is somehow that uncertainty, the fact that the top of the SEC at the moment is not looking as good as the top of the Big Ten, fueled by the fact, for instance, that Ohio State beat Texas head to head, right? And we're going to have, it's going to be a very interesting weekend to try to judge this because Georgia, Alabama, and Oregon, Penn State are going to be going on simultaneously. I think a lot of college football fans are going to split that screen and watch those games at the same time and judge not just the winners against each other, but like the winner against, like the quality of the game against each other, Bill.
Yeah. But doesn't that make you nervous? Doesn't it? Because it's going to be, I can absolutely see a scenario where like the Georgia-Alabama game looks like it looked last year. It's like 42-41 with a bunch of nonsense happening. And Penn State-Oregon is perhaps better played but lower scoring. Because it's lower scoring, it's the worst game.
And just like everything with the SEC, when they do it, that becomes the norm. When Alabama and LSU are playing 13-9 games or whatever, and like that's the standard, it's like everyone's like, well, you don't understand defense, like you don't know. And now, so the SEC might chuck it around, and we're going to have Bryce Betcher and Denai Dennis Sutton and like guys making plays defensively for Oregon and Penn State. But now the standard's going to be, Ty Simpson and Gunnar Stockton letting it rip. And it's going to be like, is it maybe that the defenses are bad? It's this, like, it's a great point, Bill, that somehow I think the SEC manages to flip who they are. They used to be a top-heavy conference. Now they're a team where the top is not as good as the Big Ten. But when it was top-heavy, that was the way that was better. And now that it's a big mishmash, that's better. And back when they played defense, that was better. And now that they chuck it around, that's better. And somehow, if the SEC does it, that's the standard. And I'm done. Just do the show by yourself. I can't do it.
Well,
it's September 23rd.
But that was sort of how things played out last year, right? But then in the end, the SEC wasn't rewarded. Like, so I guess, is there going to be so much discussion plus the fever pitch we had this offseason that the committee will view those things differently? Certainly on the table. But I'm at least calmed a little bit by the fact that like we went through this in 2024 and didn't end up with a playoff that had 7 SEC teams in it.
So, but let's unwind your scenario, because the interesting thing about these top 4 Big Ten teams, as you pointed out, Ohio State and Penn State play each other. Ohio State does not play Oregon. Ohio State does not play Indiana. But starting this weekend begins the round robin of these other teams playing each other. Oregon, Penn State this weekend. Then, as I pointed out on the Tuesday show, then Oregon and Indiana are both off next weekend, and then they play each other in Eugene. So we're getting Signetti versus Lanning very quickly, and then Indiana and Penn State play each other later in the year. Based on just preseason perception and overall talent level, and probably where some people are right now, if Indiana loses both those games, and Indiana's on the road at Penn State and at Oregon, if Indiana goes 10-2 with those 2 losses, the only equivalent game they played last year was at Ohio State when they lost. They're playing 2 games like that this year. But last year, they did not have a win as good as this dominating win over Illinois when Illinois was a top 10 team going in. We'll see what Illinois looks like at the end of the year. But you're saying already you would be worried about a 10-2 Indiana team in that scenario.
Yeah,
losing out to a 9-3 SEC team.
I would be. Part of that is fear of like Indiana, or no, excuse me, not Indiana, Illinois, maybe being more like a 7-5, 8-4 kind of team, especially like with the injury to Xavier Scott, who might be out for the year. Like he's their best defensive player. We saw what a shorthanded Illinois secondary looks like in that game against Indiana. Suddenly, like Illinois is out of the playoff race, I would say, unless it doesn't lose again, which feels unlikely. But it's super important to like the perception of the Big Ten. Like it cannot fall off a cliff. If it finishes like 9-3, or 10-2, even like loses to Ohio State, but maybe wins the rest of its games, then that Indiana win would hold some weight, I think. Then I would be less fearful of that. But I just don't know that I'm confident in Illinois putting together that kind of season. Like we talked, I think, on the pick show, or maybe it was the playoff show, like we mentioned anyway that Illinois had like USC sandwiched in between Indiana and Ohio State and kind of like dismissed the USC game a little bit. Super important game for the perception of the Big Ten. It's either like USC looks like it's playing really well and ascending, and maybe that's something that can help people see the Big Ten in a little bit of a different light, or for Indiana's purposes, keeps that what was a top 10 win and won't be anymore, still a pretty valuable win in Indiana's back pocket.
So Indiana made the playoff last year. They're undefeated. They just won a top 25 matchup, 63-10. Why are we talking about them this way instead of like I don't know that anybody thinks Georgia's not going to make the playoff at 10-2, even if Georgia loses to Alabama and Texas, right? Like, has Indiana done enough through a season and a half to just be viewed even in a different way than they were last year? That last year they were an upstart. Last year, a lot of people thought they were a product of their schedule, and at least to some degree they were. Are they out of that realm now? Iowa, as we record this on Tuesday, Kirk Ferentz was talking. They're getting ready to go to Iowa this week.
Yeah,
heck of a schedule for Indiana, by the way.
Yep.
Kirk Ferentz said that Indiana, it's hard to find weaknesses on Indiana's team, and in that way, it's a lot like playing Ohio State, that they don't have any weaknesses. That's what an opposing coach is doing. He's comparing Indiana to Ohio State. Why shouldn't we? Why should we fear the 10-2 Indiana being left out as opposed to, 10-2 Indiana, they're awesome, and they lost to two playoff teams?
I just think it takes a lot to flip the perception of the entire sport. Yeah. I do think the perception of the Big Ten has been flipped. Like Indiana is a respected program in the Big Ten now, like one to not be taken lightly, clearly. Because even the Ohio State game last year, like Ohio State ended up winning comfortably. Like, it was close at halftime, wasn't it? Wasn't it like a one-score game at halftime? It wasn't like they blew their doors off from the jump. And they beat Michigan last year, Indiana did. So I don't think there's anything holding Indiana back inside of its own conference. But it's going to take a lot more, including, like, obviously you have to win at Iowa. And Iowa City, Kinnick Stadium is a place that has swallowed up good teams and spit them out and derailed their seasons, right? So go win that game and you earn another bit of respect, right? Go, even if you don't win at Oregon or at Penn State, don't get blown out, right? Go look like you're their equal in those games, and someone has to win, right? Like that's where Indiana still has ground to make up. What they've done is incredible. I don't know that it's entirely off base to be still like slightly circumspect of what they're doing. Okay. But it was, and I guess the other part of it too is like by a certain point in that game against Illinois, they were playing against like Illinois' second string secondary almost entirely, right? If Illinois secondary was intact, I still think Indiana wins that game. They just don't win it by as much. But that's like kind of a cop out, I think, for people too who still don't want to quite give Indiana the credit that I think it's due.
Brett Bielema was saying by the end of the game, they were down 6 of their top 7 DBs. Yeah. But Kurt Cignetti was saying, put on the film, we knew we were going to get after Illinois with our pass rush because we saw Duke do it. And here's where I question what in God's name you and I are doing here. What are we doing? And I'm dragging you down with me because in the end, you and I watched Duke, Illinois, and we were like, man, Duke looks better than Illinois. I think Duke's like Illinois couldn't block Duke at all, but Duke made some goofy turnovers and Luke Altmaier made some throws in the second half. And Brett Bielema was hanging on by his fingernails doing last second substitutions. And Illinois won that game on the road. And then Duke, by the way, went and lost to Tulane. So it's like, overcoming Duke. How impressed are we with that? And yet I looked at that this whole offseason with Illinois as I was breaking the drum, picking Illinois to go 11-1. I was looking at things about Illinois. And so the one thing is I thought their secondary was good, but then their entire secondary got hurt. Xavier Scott couldn't play because he was hurt. Miles Scott, their second best secondary guy, got ejected from that game for targeting, and then everybody else got hurt. So you couldn't see that coming. The offensive line, you and I talked 1,000 times about they had everybody back, but also they've got to be better. So I was saying, okay, Aaron Henry, this defensive coordinator, they've got to jump up to being a top 25 defense. And this offensive line that returns everybody, they can't just return them. They've got to be better. And then neither of those things happened. And I wound up waiting for Illinois to become something they didn't become. Meanwhile, Indiana is that. And it was just a question of, can Indiana stay that? when they got better at quarterback, when they have their receivers back, when they maybe got better at running back, when they have all their most important defensive players back. Indiana already was that. And I picked Illinois to win that game based on, I think Illinois can become something they're not when Indiana is the same thing they've been for a year and a half. What is wrong with me?
Yeah, I mean, the offensive line thing for Illinois was staring us right in the face, and we willingly ignored it to our own demise. Yeah, and the other part for me too was because I think I said when we made the pick, like I thought both defensive fronts were like gonna get after it in that game, and it would be kind of close, and Illinois would kind of eke it out because Illinois sort of did that last year. I underestimated Indiana's offensive line, like that. Indiana's offensive line was probably the thing about that team last year that was like most deficient compared to the other teams that were in the playoff. And I just sort of figured it would be the same this year. And I think Illinois got a pretty good defensive front and did a nice job of handling them. So, and like the game state got a little wacky too, so maybe that helped. But if everything else about Indiana is like the same or enhanced, and then you add what looks like it to be like significantly improved offensive line play on top of that, then I think the conversation about, or the question as to whether Indiana might be better this year than it was last year was sort of answered definitively last week. It's just a matter of like what they do with that now because the schedule is more difficult.
Yeah. You and I before the season thought there were 3 Big Ten teams that should make the playoff and 8 that could make the playoff. Those playoff odds for the 3 that should from DraftKings, Ohio State is minus 800 to make the playoff right now. Like it could not be more of a odds-on favorite to make the playoff. Oregon's minus 425 and Penn State's minus 300. So odds-on favorites for those 3 teams to make the playoff. I don't know that we're surprised by any of that.
Is there anybody else that's close that as close to Ohio State's odds?
I don't know that there's anybody better than in the 400s.
Okay.
So I think maybe Georgia was sort of in that range, but actually I think Oregon might be second. So
Georgia's
that's just
260 minus 260.
260. Okay. So I mean that's just like this is where we are with how people are viewing this right now, right? Yeah. So okay. The next tier has kind of been split in half, at least in the betting perception, but I think correctly in the perception, and a lot of it based on who's already lost and what's happening on the field. To make the playoff, the next 4 Big Ten teams to make the playoff, Indiana is plus 170, USC plus 225, Michigan, which has a loss to Oklahoma, plus 370 coming off that win at Nebraska, and Washington at plus 500. And Washington is going to have these opportunities with teams coming to their place, Ohio State going to their place this weekend, Illinois is going to go to their place, Oregon's going to go to their place. So Washington's going to have opportunity. And then the next group, it's kind of a fall off. Nebraska is plus 1,500, so 15-1 to make the playoff after losing at home to Michigan. Iowa 20-1, Illinois 22-1, and Minnesota 55-1. So those were our teams. When you look at that second tier as it stands now, Indiana, USC, Michigan, Washington, how confident do you feel about the idea of somebody from that tier emerging to give the Big Ten a very strong 4th playoff contender, or is the Big Ten going to eat itself?
No, I don't think the Big Ten is going to eat itself. I think there's enough discrepancy between the top and the bottom for those teams not to like suffer a loss you didn't see coming. So I remain confident that the Big Ten will get a 4th team in. Which team? I'm not entirely sure. Like the easy answer at the moment is Indiana, but it's hard to feel great about that with those two big road trips looming. USC is playing really well, especially offensively. We'll get a better idea, I think, now with them going on the road and playing Illinois this week. Washington's schedule is interesting, right? Like Washington, a team that won at home and didn't win on the road last year, has a favorable road schedule this year. With like, if it has to play at Michigan, that's tough. But like at Maryland, at Wisconsin, at UCLA, Washington should win all those games. Will it? I don't know. But like if Washington gets one of its home games against Ohio State and Oregon and maybe maybe it's 10-2 because it drops that road game at Michigan. Like, I don't know. That's a pretty compelling resume, I think, for a Big Ten playoff team. So I think they're still very much in the thick of it. So I feel okay about it still. I the way we opened the show with expressing concern about that jumble of SEC teams is not like paranoia. I think that's real, but I still feel okay about where the Big Ten is.
How interested are you in Michigan as a playoff contender right now? Because 5 of their games that remain for 3-1 Michigan's off this weekend, are Wisconsin, at Michigan State, home Purdue, at Northwestern at Wrigley Field, and at Maryland. Now, Maryland's looked pretty frisky, so like I don't want to take that for granted. That's a road trip. But those are 5 games that Michigan should win. And then they are at USC on October 11th, home versus Washington on October 18th, and obviously home versus Ohio State to end the year.
Yeah.
You can look at that and find a 10-2 Michigan. And as you're not a 10-2 Indiana with a win over Illinois, but road losses to Penn State and Oregon, you're not exactly sure about. Let's say a 10-2 Michigan. Say it's a loss to Ohio State, but they beat Washington and USC. Maybe it's a loss at USC, but they beat Ohio State for the 5th straight time. They have the loss at Oklahoma. A lot of people think Oklahoma is going to be a playoff team. Do you think a 10-2 Michigan in that scenario is a strong playoff contender?
Yeah, I think it would. I mean, you would need USC to remain strong. I think if they were to beat Washington, the Washington will be a pretty good win by the end of the year. Even like Maryland could be like a team maybe that had like Maryland is a team like they're not a playoff contender, but that's a team I thought might win like 3 games, and now maybe it might win more like 8 games, right? So that could be actually a decently strong win for a Big Ten team too. Just as our people are like power rating things and trying to figure out who should get in. So yeah, I think 10-2 Michigan would be a strong candidate, and you're dealing with human beings and their institutional knowledge of college football. Michigan will probably get more of a benefit of the doubt than Indiana would in that scenario, just because of its helmet, even if the resumes were similar. So, yeah, I think Michigan would be in a decent spot there.
That makes sense. All right, you want to do our latest playoff brackets, which we do here every Tuesday evening, Mr. Landis?
I would love to. Would you like to first tell the fine folks about Roback?
I like it. I'm going to put a sign on my closet door here that says, do the Roback read, but I didn't do it yet. I'm going to put a sign up that says, do the Roback read. I'm going to put on a sign up that says, make sure that your cords are connected. Because I'm a professional podcaster, and professional podcasters and fans alike need to know about Roback. Listen, so this is the thing, right? They have this game day collection, Landis, which is the thing that I like most about Roback, is that it's apparel that allows you to express your fandom, but it's just a little different style than kind of what you normally see out there, right? And sometimes you want to wear like a big branded sweatshirt with your team's logo all over it, but maybe there are times when you want to wear a quarter zip or a polo or a hoodie that's just a little more subtle, a little more classic, a little more stylish, and Roback is the king of that. So this is a great opportunity. Is it officially fall? Did fall start?
Yeah, the equinox was on Monday. Yeah.
Look at you knowing when the equinox is. It's an equinox special here. No, it's not. But it's a good time. Like the equinox is a good time to think, I need to think fall clothes. So again, like quarter zips, hoodies, this fleeces, right? Roback has you covered with all this stuff. Again, this game day collection is just fun to look. So go to roback.com. That's RHOBACK.com, and just allow yourself to look. Mm-hmm. And it's a wonderful, like window shopping is kind of a lost art because people order everything online. This is a great window shopping website because the things are just, it's a very cool vibe with a lot of this college football gear. And we're going to give you a code. Okay. This will get you 20% off your first order at roback.com. Put in BAD20, bad 20. You'll get 20% off. This is a nice savings. You'll get 20% off your first order. I'm telling you, just go check it out and see what you think. The fall collection, the game day collection. Again, that's at RHOBACK.com. BAD20 is the code to get 20% off. Maybe someday we'll have BAD clothing at Roback, just like a nice quarter zip and like a nice, like a stripe, right? It just says bad right across it. Let's do your playoff picks first, because I am terrible about knowing about college football this year. So I would rather have you go first, and then I can steal what you think.
I don't think I'm much better, but I'll give you mine first. My top 4 is unchanged from last week. So
Okay.
I still have Ohio State first as the Big Ten champ, Miami second as the ACC champ, Georgia third as the SEC champ. By the way, can I give a shout out to Bud Elliott, who put out his playoff rankings this week and did not have an SEC team, didn't have the SEC champ in the top 4. Respect.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
So he then would have had 2 Big Ten teams, Miami as the ACC champ, and who was his 4th team?
I think Texas Tech.
Look at that, leaning in. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So shout out to Bud. Sorry, Ohio State 1, Miami 2, Georgia 3, Oregon is still 4 for me. Here's where I started to change things up a little bit. I have Texas Tech 5th as the Big 12 champ.
Okay, you're buying in, huh?
Yeah,
you're bought in.
I was pretty impressed by what happened in that game. Penn State, I have 6th. I moved Oklahoma up to 7th after they beat Auburn this week. I have Texas A&M 8th. I did some shuffling of the SEC teams.
Okay.
I have Florida State 9, Texas 10, which, by the way, would create a Texas at Oklahoma first round game.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I have Indiana 11, and I am back to South Florida in the 12th spot as the G5 representative after Tulane got housed by Ole Miss this week.
Okay. Yeah, it's been I will say that American race, I think we can just kick back and enjoy it.
It's going to be really good.
With the realization that the winner of the American Athletic Conference is going to be the G5 rep in the playoff, and I think will be a worthy one. And so right now, the odds of that, Tulane is plus 290 to win the American. Memphis is plus 400. North Texas plus 450. Navy plus 450. And South Florida plus 475. I just don't think anyone needs to bang their head against the wall about this. Just sit back and watch some ball and have a reason. This is like the playoff at its best, Bill, that I'll admit, I am not a group of 5 guy. I lean into the blue bloods. I lean into the big brands. So I would not normally just sit around and be like, you know what? I'm going to flip on South Florida, Memphis, and just sit back and enjoy this thing. But if I know that is a crucial game and that the winner will greatly enhance its chances of making the playoff, I'm much more interested in that. So let's just enjoy the American that way.
Yeah, I think we should. And I'm just taking a peek ahead here. Looks like the first kind of banger in the American is going to be Friday, October 10th, South Florida at North Texas.
Okay. And pick a team maybe, right? Like people always say this, oh, it's the English Premier League, just pick a team. And I like Westminster Chicken Coop. Oh, Westminster Chicken Coop. I've adopted them and I bought a scarf and I wake up at 4 a.m. and I enjoy them and they're 0-0 tie. Just do that with the American. If you can do it with European football, you can do it with the American. Pick your squad. You like North Texas now? Go root for North Texas like you would for Westminster Chicken Coop. Don't people do this all over the place? They pick their soccer team?
They do. Actually, I was gifted a very early birthday present over the weekend, which was an Aston Villa jersey from my uncle.
Really?
Yeah, but to be fair, he's British. He's from Birmingham, and he is a lifelong Aston Villa fan. So, he has a reason to like them, and he's just passing it on to us. Yeah.
No, but do you know, are they rivals with Westminster Chicken Coop or no? Are they?
I don't think so. No,
okay.
I think Westminster Chicken Coop is in a different division. Yeah.
Now, listen. I'm not disparaging that idea. I just know that's a thing.
Oh, you're not Westminster Chicken Coop. You're not disparaging it.
I'm just saying, I know people do it. People are like, I don't know anything about this thing. I actually think that makes a lot of sense. I don't know anything about it. I'm going to just randomly adopt a team so then I can get into it. I don't know anything about F1, but now I like Viva Barcelona for the F1 team. And that's my team now. That's great. I'm just saying, if you can do it with them, do it with the American. That's all. I think I called them Westminster Chicken Coop because one of my friends went to Europe in high school and I said oh, get me a soccer thing or whatever. And he brought me back a hat and it was something FC. and there was a picture of a chicken, and I thought the FC stood for Fighting Cocks, and it was football club. So I think every mascot in English soccer is a chicken. So that's why I think it's like
a few of them are.
To be fair, I mean, you know what? There's not a ton of. I guess South Carolina. I don't know how many chicken mascots there are in
Coastal
college
Carolina.
football, but you have to differentiate Westminster Chicken Coop from South Wofford Chicken Coop. That's why you have to. You just can't call them Chicken Coop. Right. So, all right, pick your American team. Are you in? Like, I am not. And this is also my tendency to think a thing. I didn't let myself vote this way. I think because I could vote, you have to go by results. But if you're predicting things, if I think something in the offseason, it is very hard to get me off of it, even as things unfold during a college football regular season. I did not believe in Texas Tech piecing together this roster. I think it's only 9 of their starters, though, who are from the portal. It's not like it's 17. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to believe in Texas Tech's ability to get through a 12-game season with a bunch of guys who are kind of new to each other until I see it. So I'm not going to get on that bandwagon. I will be a late adopter on Texas Tech, even though my daughter's 8th grade English teacher's son is one of the Texas Tech guys who went from the MAC to left guard as a starting left guard at Texas Tech. Good luck to Will Jados. You're in, though.
Yeah, I mean, to go... So like we were big on Utah, right? And like I'm kind of still big on Utah, to be honest. I'm not entirely out on them. I think the book is out, right? Like make Devin Dampier a passer and you got a chance. But to go to Rice-Eccles and out physical Utah, is among the more impressive things I think you can do in college football. So I'm pretty in on what I saw there. And then to do it when their starting quarterback goes out and the backup comes in and plays well. That to me looks like a pretty good football team. But to your point, the Big 12, I think everyone's sort of condensed, so we'll see. Texas Tech plays Kansas in a couple weeks, Arizona State after that, BYU at the end of the year. So there'll be some other games that won't be gimmies.
I don't know what to think of the Big 12 either. Big 12 odds to win the conference at the moment: Texas Tech plus 240, Arizona State with the loss to Mississippi State now still second at plus 550, TCU plus 600, Iowa State plus 650, Utah 10-1 as the 5th choice right now. Do you want to guess who I have as my Big 12 champ at the moment? Even though I would wish I could pass, but I didn't. I just don't know what to do. Who do you think I picked?
Let me think. TCU.
I did pick TCU, and there's a big one Friday. TCU at Arizona State on Friday night is something that should get your attention. They are 2nd and 3rd in the Big 12 odds right now. Josh Hoover's thrown for 1,000 yards in 3 games. He threw for 379 and 5 touchdowns in their win over SMU. I like Sonny Dykes. They've done it before. Like they have a real quarterback. Although there's a lot of good quarterbacks in the Big 12. So that's where I am. But I am not enthusiastic about anything right now. I remain uncertain about Iowa State, even though you have to respect what Matt Campbell does so much. And I really like Rocco Becht. I'm still not sure a little bit about some of their skill guys. I still have some questions up front about them. But maybe that's wrong too. Did you think about making Iowa State your Big 12 team?
No, they've been like out of sight, out of mind for me, like probably unfairly so. But no, I didn't. And I also just thought of something that would be hilarious. Because it's not impossible that Texas misses the playoff. What if Texas misses the playoff while Texas Tech, Texas A&M, and Texas Christian?
Oh my God! They will ride Sark out on a freaking rail, dude. I mean, they won't ride Sark out on a rail. And Oklahoma. If that happens, Arch Manning is the quarterback at Rutgers next year, right?
I don't know. Does Kelly McManus still have eligibility? Because he's playing really well right now. He's playing.
Is that where you are? There's no room in the Big Ten for Arch Manning. Sorry,
you can go to Northwestern. Yeah.
Sorry. That's going to be our big Wednesday show on our Substack premium show, is talking about sort of like the growth of quarterback play in the Big Ten. Maybe that'd be a good headline for that show, Landis. Would Arch Manning start in the Big Ten?
How many Big Ten teams would pass on Arch Manning?
Kirk Ferentz is like, we got Mark Gronowski. We're good, man. What are you talking? We're good. Oh man. Okay. Here's my playoff pick. I also am very similar, and there's like Ohio State number one. We both have that. Feel very good about. I think everybody's in on Miami at this point, right? Is this unanimous? Both sides of the ball up front. And like veteran quarterback play. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if this was like a poll driven by resume, I don't have a problem with voting Miami number one.
Although I will say, I did find it odd, and this is, and I mentioned this somewhere else, that Miami's sixth in the coaches poll and second in the AP poll. That's the biggest gap in polls that I can remember ever.
Yeah.
I mean, usually they're 1 or 2 spots away, but I did find it odd that it's the win over Florida that people were like, okay, that's it. I got to vote Miami number one now.
It was the worst they looked. Yeah. Like, it was still, they won comfortably in the end, but it was definitely the worst they played.
I thought that was an odd inflection point, because we're all in agreement now that all that preseason Florida hype that some people were on is not worth it. And that's part of it, because the DJ Lagway hasn't been healthy. But like, I did think that was strange. I mean, because you and I got to Miami pretty quickly. We were saying 2 weeks ago we thought the 3 best teams in the country, or at least most impressive, were Ohio State, Oregon, and Miami.
Yeah.
So
I still think that. Yeah.
We're not going to be blind to that. I do still have Texas 3 as the SEC champ. They looked better against Sam Houston State. Arch is like sticking it to FCS guys and whatever. Like, great. I don't know. They're off this week. Steve Sarkisian thinks they're going to get healthy and maybe go on a run here. So I'll hang around on Texas for now, and Oregon 4. So my top 4 didn't change. My top 6 didn't change. Ohio State, Miami, Texas, Oregon, the top 4. Penn State 5, Georgia 6. TCU 7, replacing Utah. Texas A&M still 8. Indiana 9, replacing Illinois. And then Georgia Tech 10, Missouri 11, South Florida 12. So my only changes this week were the 2 teams that lost, Utah and Illinois, I replaced them. TCU instead of Utah, Indiana instead of Illinois.
You had Missouri in last week?
I did. But and again, I also thought that there was a little bit of a people who were liking Oklahoma after this game against Oklahoma were like, yes, okay, Oklahoma. But then simultaneously, people were saying that was like the worst officiated game they've seen in their life, and they gave Oklahoma a free cheating touchdown that they shouldn't have gotten. So what? Now I know Oklahoma sacked Jackson Arnold a million times, but they still maybe shouldn't have won. But that's the confirmation we needed on Oklahoma. That I'm not buying.
Yeah, well, I think at least for me anyway, like as someone who moved Oklahoma up, like I would, that defense, it looks legitimate to me. Like I think there are a couple of defenses that I feel like have solidified themselves like at the top. Oklahoma is one of them. I think Texas is one of them. I think Ohio State's one of them. Texas Tech might be one of them, right? With what they did this week. So I don't know that there's anybody who's like kind of kicking tail on both sides of the ball. The closest teams are probably the 3 you mentioned earlier: Ohio State, Miami, and Oregon. But yeah, Oklahoma's offense still leaves a little bit to be desired.
Yeah. Miami, Florida State, by the way, Miami's off this week. Florida State plays Virginia, and then they meet next weekend. So that is going to be gigantic.
Florida State, Virginia is Friday night. That's like a touchdown spread. It's like 6.5.
Oh, really? Add that to like the Ohio State Washington one. That like they're just
Virginia's 3-1.
Okay, interesting. So this is going to be quite a weekend. We will make our picks on Friday. It's moving weekend, right? Like Oregon, Penn State is going to tell us.
I think we've said that 3 weeks in a row. But yeah, it feels like it. Yeah.
Do I remember?
I wrote down the games.
I've lost my way. What am I doing, Bill? I'm just a cliche machine. I forget to read the ads. I'm not locked in. Can you feel that in your life when you're not locked in sometimes?
Yes, but I think a little bit of not locked in is good, because then you like invite a little bit of chaos and silliness, which is great. But again, it is another moving weekend. I think Florida State, Virginia is interesting. Obviously, Ohio State going to Washington, Penn State playing Oregon, Auburn, A&M, Indiana at Iowa, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss. Interesting.
Okay. And like this, so it is fascinating. it is just absolutely fascinating that the most interesting team in college football is the Indiana Hoosiers for the second straight year. They are the pivot point of college football discussion because they are that fourth team in the Big Ten. So everything they do is not only about them, it is a referendum on every single thing around them. It is a referendum on the Big Ten. It is a referendum on the Big Ten SEC rivalry. It is a referendum on strength of schedule metrics. It is a referendum on how do we treat teams off the radar versus established blue bloods. Everything Indiana does matters to everybody. And at the moment, they are getting ready to go to Iowa, and Kirk stinking Ferentz wedged in between games against Illinois and Oregon that were both like top 10 opponents. Like it's a fascinating place that people need to and get to care about the Hoosiers this much. What are you doing?
Sorry, John Mateer is getting surgery. He's going to be out for a little bit.
Oh, for real? No. Is it Michael Hawkins Jr. is the Oklahoma backup, the guy who played last year when they benched Jackson Arnold?
Yeah.
No?
So, yeah. Mateer will undergo surgery Wednesday to address a right hand injury he sustained in the win over Auburn. The expectation is that he will return to action sometime this season. But yeah, Michael Hawkins will start their next game, which is on October 4th against Kent State. But the week after that's Red River. So,
oh man, Arch better not get outplayed by Michael Hawkins Jr.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. That'll be on it. Oh, that is an ooh. That is an ooh. All right, thanks for breaking that news. All right. So so part of it was like you were at a weekend wedding. I was at a weekend visit to my daughter. It's just like a long drive back. Sometimes like it just takes me a little while after you travel, and then you get back late, and then you're kind of behind, and you're not 100% in. I would like to get locked in, but your advice is don't bother.
No, yeah, like locked in enough that you're not saying stupid things, but you don't have to be an expert on this sport to talk about it. No, not at all.
I don't know. Locked in enough to not say stupid things. I don't know. I don't know how to get there. If anybody has advice on how to get to that point, not just in podcasting and in college football, but in life, please advise.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, the ball is, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure if the ball is good yet this year, honestly, but it's interesting.
It's interesting. It's entertaining and it's interesting. And I think, it's only September. So like even the eagerness to want a defined playoff kind of picture in September is a little silly, but the fact that we really don't have one is kind of nice. It's fun.
I will say Ryan Day said this on Tuesday, and it was an interesting point that it's not breaking news, but the idea that every other sport in the world, you just win. You just win and you win, and that's it. And college football is the only sport like this where style points actually do matter. And as much as I just said, man, wouldn't it be easier if it was just 2 for the Big 12 and the ACC and 4 for the Big 10 and the SEC, and you didn't have to worry about this? The style points layer over everything that we do for the teams and the players trying to win the style points, for us trying to analyze style points, not just wins and losses, but how impressive were you while you were doing it. It adds a level of chaotic uncertainty that more often than not makes me feel like a crazy person who is terrible at his job and trying to talk about this sport. But dang it, Landis, it makes it interesting. And I think as much as I just advocated for spots that are locked in, I think I would miss it. And I do have to remind myself at times that my own angst about it is not what it's about. It's, man, this sport is entertaining as all get out.
Yeah, and that's always been we've had many discussions about the let them lose era, right? And what the sport might have lost with that and the recalibration that has to happen. It's still crazy, right?
It's crazy.
That's not going anywhere, I don't think. Maybe come Super League time, it'll go away when it's more like the NFL. But until we get to there, the chaos will remain.
I will say I do not like college football chaos around rules and regulations and cheating and that kind of stuff. I do not find that entertaining. There are some people who like the clown car aspect of college football, and I actually find that it diminishes what we're really all here for, which is fans who really passionately care about these young athletes who put their brains and bodies on the line. And when it's like, money under the table, and it's like, I don't find that entertaining. The chaos of trying to figure out who's actually good and who's not, that it doesn't get any better than that. That's great. And I guess maybe the trade-off in the end is, if I'm already wound up about the idea of 15 9-3 teams and 4 of them getting in, there is no right answer. And maybe the thing that we all have to accept at times with college football is that you pursue a good answer, but there's no right answer. There might not even be a best answer. There's today's answer, and it's the best you can do. But the chaotic uncertainty for 3 months that gives everybody that wonderful knot in their stomach, and in the let them lose era, you're not out of it just because you had a bad weekend. You can remain in the chaos. Brother, what's better than that?
Nothing.
He's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Lesmerises. We do this on our Substack, where you can dive in for Ohio State coverage. We do this where we talk about the Buckeyes here on our YouTube channel and our podcast channel multiple times a week. On Tuesday nights, we go big picture with our playoff brackets. On Friday, we do our national picks, where we will make picks for Oregon, Penn State, and Georgia, Alabama, and all these other games that Landis mentioned. It's another great weekend of college football, and we are just super excited that you guys are along for the ride with us and letting us be part of your fandom. So for now, he's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Lesmerises, and that was the Bill and Doug Show.